Our third and final speaker this afternoon needs no introduction to many of you in this room. Wally King has been a fixture and a force on Georgian Bay for many years. I won't embarrass him by saying how many years. Not only is he a former president of the GBA and an honorary life member, but he was also instrumental in the founding of the Georgian Bay Land Trust. Speaking of the Land Trust, I know that their current chair, I believe their current chair, Janie Vincent, and their executive director, Bill Laheed, are here today, and I'd like to acknowledge them and the fact that the GBLT is celebrating their 25th anniversary this year. Here's Bill. Congratulations, Bill. And that fact gives you a little clue as to how long Wally's been toiling away on the bay. So with no further ado, Mr. Wally King.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think I'm going to make it to the next 100th anniversary, but we'll try. I was at the 75th anniversary, and I found my pen for 75 years. Thanks to John Birnbaum, I think he created these. Your Honor, Mr. Minister, my family, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to be here tonight. It was difficult to talk about the remarks that I might make tonight because it does cover many years and many achievements in many ways. Shortly after our return from Florida, March 17th, I was reminded by our executive director, Bob Duncanson, that I was to say a few words at our GBA 100th anniversary. He handed me a well-worn copy of the corporate minutes going back to the beginning, effective from March 11th, 1916, setting out our Constitution, rules and regulations, together with board minutes and AGMs extending to the middle of the Civil War. It was a fascinating read. It took me the best part of the night, and I have here the minutes that I read. I will leave them on the table. It's a well-worn thing, so be careful turning the pages because it might get damaged. Thank you. What struck me the most was the underlying commitment assumed by a remarkably few gentlemen, mostly doctors and lawyers, that led the organization over the decades. Dr. J. Gibb Wishart was the president during all those decades, and I think David is here at his grandson today. He was the president. F.W. White was the secretary. Mr. Michael Herman Ludwig, KC, the equivalent of Queen's Counsel in those days, legal counsel. And as an aside, Mr. Ludwig was also treasurer of the Law Society of Upper Canada in 1936, the most senior position of the society. He died in office in 1937. I don't know whether it was from overwork for the GBA, but I'm sure it was a sad occasion for those gentlemen in those days. These and a number of others had volunteered their time, skills, and energy in the issues of our Georgian Bay community. What a testament to our commitment. The very fabric of volunteerism, which continues to this day, led so ably by our executive director, Bob Duncanson. Following the war years, the GBA became inactive, no doubt due to the death and aging of many of our former volunteer leaders. However, the record and corporate filings were continued and kept current by Mr. Morley Patterson of Wild Goose Island, Sans Souci. Mr. Patterson, then president, initiated a meeting on Sunday afternoon at his home in the Kingsway, Toronto, in the fall of 1972, for the purpose of considering whether the GBA had served its purpose and whether its charter should now be canceled and the organization dissolved. Those present, led by Tony Ormsby, Douglas Martin, Gordon Bongard, myself, and I think St. Clair Balfour, discussed what might lie ahead with the GBA mantle where the GBA mantle might be useful, and indeed for expanding its constituent membership. We saw issues such as indiscriminate development, commercial shipping, and water quality becoming matters of interest. In order to respond to these issues on the horizon, it was decided that we not only reactivate the GBA, but it should be a focal point of our common interest on behalf of an expanding constituent base to represent our community outside and beyond the GBA area of influence, including the government ministries such as the Ministry of Municipal Affairs. Not only was the foregoing enthusiastically endorsed by the group, but a number of policy decisions were also approved. One, the GBA would not seek funds from its members directly other than operating costs, but it would be funded on a project basis only. Two, the GBA would not respond, would only respond to Georgian Bay global issues of concern to most, if not all constituent members. Volunteerism would be a principle going forward as it has been over the last decades. And any research studies and reports must be seen to be creditable, substantive, respected, and in the long-term interests of the larger community. And any submissions or studies to go well beyond localized protest and opinion. The above was brought to the constituent members for approval, and the GBA was underway again to deal with commercial shipping, the creation of the Township of the Archipelago, the Georgian Bay Trust Foundation, and the Georgian Bay Biosphere Reserve, all of which represent outstanding success stories. I believe someone heard then our Premier, Bill Davis, remark that he couldn't go to the Ontario Economic Meeting without hearing about Georgian Bay issues. We have now been heard. We can only be very proud of what GBA has achieved over the last 100 years. But more importantly, the citizens of Ontario, indeed of Canada, have also benefited from the leadership of the GBA in preserving one of Ontario's greatest recreational and conservation assets. The volunteer spirit of GBA was fundamental to these achievements, and it seems assured now. Respectfully submitted. That is my report, but Mr. Chairman, I've got another matter that I'd like to bring on this occasion, the 100th anniversary of our founding. We have, I believe, our Premier Bill Davis with us, but I want to mention two things. One, the Township of the Archipelago would have never been created without the support, and almost single-handedly, the support of our Premier Davis. It's a wonderful opportunity to say thank you. Bill, would you sit down? I've got one more. Sit down.
I've been doing what he's asked for years.
The second thing that I think was also very vital that Bill achieved, if I may call you Bill, is that when we created the Georgian Bay Trust Foundation, we were being charged municipal taxes on our trust property. Well, if you think about it, that was an incredible thing. We couldn't survive. Can you imagine raising money in order to pay municipal taxes? It was definitely a no-no. And the Premier and his son, Neil, had an interview, private meeting with the Minister of Finance of the other persuasion, Greg Sabera. And I don't know exactly what went on in the meeting, but I can tell you about 10 days later, it was ordered by an order in council that there would not be municipal taxes on our trust property. And that was a terrific achievement for the future of the Georgia May Land Trust. And Bill, I don't know whether you've ever been formally thanked for that, but it certainly, this is an occasion to recognize another person who has done so much for us. Thank you, Mr. Premier.
Thank you, Wally. I'm frantically trying to adjust my thank you remarks here, but
You're not the first, nor will you be the last.
and Mr. Davis, it's wonderful to see you again, sir. Wally, thank you for the insight and the historical perspective. The strength of the GBA is a tribute to the Legion of Volunteers such as yourself, so thank you very much. And by the way, this is off script, thank you for the mention of Tony Ormsby and Douglas Martin, who happened to be from Nares Inlet. And my better half's father, Ian Stewart, was the reeve of the township of the Archipelago back in the early days. So Nares Inlet has made its contribution. We have a small token, Bob, of our appreciation to each of the speakers that we would like to give you right now. And Rolf, I think you're going to take some select photographs, yes, are you? And so if we could do that, please, Bob. Yeah. Maybe while...
Okay.
These are the much sought after 100th anniversary, only given to very special people.